What is your most memorable story of petty revenge? I have a friend whose pumpkin fall display at the end of his driveway would be run over by the neighborhood jerk. Happened every year. My friend decided to put a stop to it. He withdrew money from his savings account so he would have enough to buy the largest pumpkin he could find, along with several large bags of Quikrete. Filled that puppy up and made a real pretty display. The jackass broke the axle of his sharty car when he hit that pumpkin. Could not drive away. My friend had his car towed away, too. I caught my flatmate telling lies about me to some mutual friends. I made plans to move out the next month. In the meantime, she went out of town for a week and left her car parked in its usual spot in the parking lot. I threw birdseed on it every morning and evening. So when she came home, the birds wouldn't leave her car alone. I used to manage a Starbucks when one of my baristas asked a guy his name and he just flipped the duck out, belittling her. Called her stupid etc and didn't give a name. Anyway, I take over the handoff drinks and place his drink just on the handoff with no words. I'll add it was a busy store with a lot of people waiting. I just keep putting drinks out for about 10-15 minutes and douchebag walks up and picks up his drink that's now lukewarm and goes, "Is this mine?" I just respond with, "I don't know, it doesn't have a name on it." My college roommate had a bad habit of leaving her things in piles on our bathroom floor until there was almost no space to walk to the bath or toilet. Not just clothes but change, jewelry, decks of playing cards, knitting needles, books, hairpins, scarves, earbud headphones, keys, etc. One day she left $40 scattered with the mess. So I put the money in one of her lesser used bathroom drawers. Originally I put it there to protect it from our third roommate and her friends. When I came home the next day and noticed that she was clearing her mess in an effort to find it, I decided not to tell her where the money was until our bathroom floor was spotless. Afterwards, I decided it would be too awkward to tell her the truth, so I left the money wadded up in her hamper as I'd found it on the floor. She was ecstatic when she found it on laundry day. After that her bathroom piles never got quite as big. Not me, but for my wife. When we were younger and kind of on hard times, she took a pretty shady job at a local factory. The first 2 weeks she was there, she had her lunch stolen at least 5 or 6 times. Even open drinks. I was pretty pissed. A lot of times I would grill for her or make her lunch, and she was going hungry. One night I bought a big ass Gatorade and a box of those women's laxatives. Both red in color. Couldn't tell the two were mixed. But we found out who the thief was. In response to her, admittedly pretty good, practical joke, I hid 7 battery powered alarm clocks in the perpetrator's room. Set them to go off one by one roughly every 40 minutes between 2 and 6 AM. Last one was hid in the ceiling. My friend did some work for a guy who skipped his bill and never paid him. My friend is so petty he did many things, such as placed fake for sale ads with too good a deal like an ice boat for $1,000 and other numerous ads with the guy's number. Our city is big on garage sales. He posted ads like moving out sale. Everything must go. Cheap. Will be held inside the house. Just walk in or ring the doorbell, then put this guy's address on the ad. He also signed him up for numerous free gym memberships and responded to things like car dealership ads with this guy's phone number. He did a lot more. That's just what I can remember. I don't know who I feel more sorry for. We were kids staying at the seaside on holiday with our family. My little sister would always make a pretty sandcastle, and the next day it would have been kicked down and she'd cry. We wanted to find out who was doing it. So one day we stayed behind to spy. We watched as a bunch of jerk older boys came by and kicked her castle down, laughing smugly. So the next night, we covered a big beach rock and sand and decorated it like clockwork. The jerk kids came with their smug faces and this time kicked a solid rock with all of their might. The yell and the look on their faces was the best revenge ever. My brother did something to his then girlfriend. So she took the labels off all his canned food tins in the cupboards. Are you opening a tin of beans? Or a tin of tomato sauce? Or cat food? Kinda hilarious. Grounded yet again by my angry dad for breathing whilst his bowl game was on. I was stuck in my bedroom bored witless. For something to do I flicked the light switches on and off, primo by Lyra folks. We had to make our own fun. It was then I discovered that this made a loud buzzing static interference on the TV in the lounge. Cue the next 5 years of petty revenge. Angry dad never figured out why we had such a bad TV signal at game time. He never connected it with me being sent to my room and flicking the light switch every few minutes. Reveling as he yelled futilely at the static dancing across the TV. I used to work doing stucco in East Texas. One guy just never paid us. So we spent a day tearing down everything we worked on. Another time, while working for a small machine shop, a customer kept dicking us around about paying for some work we did. Was all a walk-in job. Paid half up front and would pay the rest at pickup. Well, he needed his part now and would pay us the remainder in a month or so. So, we cut his part in half and said we'll give him the other half in a month or so. Lesson of the story: don't duck around with contractors. I found out my then boyfriend was cheating on me. And he threw my dog across the room when we were discussing what he had done. I moved out immediately. More for hurting my dog than anything. So as I was moving out I took his entire porn collection and microwaved them one by one. It only takes 3 seconds each. Took me about an hour to go through them all. I put them back in the case. Then back where they belonged. Not sure if the microwave was still usable. Did not really care. He was also a manager at a restaurant and would bring home tons of food. They had really nice coolers that the food came in, so I called the GM and explained I had moved out and that I wanted to return the boxes. He lost his job. Then I was getting collection calls for him. Gave him the new girl's work and personal number so they could find him. Don't mess with my dogs. I used to go to this arcade and play a certain basketball game, as my name indicates. I was climbing the all-time wins leaderboard in said game. Very close behind number 1, when one day my account vanishes. None of the other accounts do. And I learned that somehow the number 1 wins player, who works there, had a hand in it. I waited until he played another game and watched as he put in his code for his initials account. Then waited 30 minutes when he was done. Logged into his account on that machine and tanked a game pretty hard. When I was done his record dropped to 210-1. Unfortunately I did not see his reaction. But I got way too much vengeance satisfaction from it. Back in the late 90s I worked at Best Buy and one Saturday a month we had to come in 3 hours before the store opened, so 7 AM, for a mandatory all-store meeting where we watched the video from corporate. Give out Employee of the Month awards. Go over department goals. And the like. Well, there was a guy in our department, James, who was a pretty crappy worker and showed up to the meeting an hour late and the manager took him aside and fired him. Well, apparently the manager didn't watch him on his way out of the store and he went into the break room and stuck his finger in every single donut they brought in for our break, so literally the only mild positive of getting up at 6 on Saturday was ruined. 20 years later and I still miss that donut. Full stop. When I was about 8, I convinced my 4-year-old sister to brush her teeth with mascara by saying that it was a special type of toothpaste because she had broken a toy of mine. A young guy down the street was constantly speeding through the neighborhood. He gets home from work around the same time every day and always rips it down the street to his driveway. I called the city and had a cop come out and do radar. He got a dangerous driving charge and stopped speeding around here. I lived in an apartment with a roommate. We had neighbors who would throw crazy parties pretty frequently, oftentimes during the week. One day my roommate, who had to be awake early, had enough and decided to piss on a metal pizza pan and stick it in the freezer. After a crazy party he pulled the pan out and flipped it upside down, giving him a frozen disc of piss. He then slid that disc under their door where it would melt on their fully carpeted entryway. Woke up to them shouting at the people who crashed there about who pissed on the floor what the duck was wrong with them. Wish I could say they toned down their parties. But they didn't and eventually got evicted. I moved to America to be with this guy, let's call him Dick. Big Dick happened to work at the same big box store as my friend Jay. And one day when I came to meet Jay from work, a co-worker innocently said, "Are you looking for Dick? He's staying with his girlfriend." Me, I'm his girlfriend. Now another thing you should know about Big Dick is he bought his toothbrushes wholesale and lived in the grungiest apartment ever. I cleaned every inch of that bathroom, toilet included, with each and every one of those remaining toothbrushes, documenting every step with photographs. Then I rinsed them in the toilet and put them back in the box. And I packed my sheet and left. 10 years later, when I'd calculated he was on the last brush, I sent him the pictures. I got reviewed at work by a manager I had never met before. I had done everything I was always told to do, and more. But he still marked me low. I know it's because they wanted to avoid giving me a raise. But at least say you don't want to, can't afford to. I'll at least respect your honesty. Anything else, and you can go duck yourself. Anyway, he told me I didn't go the extra mile. I pointed out that I always do. His response? "Well, I never see you do it." I said, "Well, maybe if management didn't always hang out at guest services and went around to the other floors, where I am doing my job, you'd have seen me." That got him to yell at me and mark me poorly for attitude. But I'd jaff. Later on, he came up to me and asked me if I could stay late. Given that I'd previously told him I didn't have anything else to do the next day, he probably thought I'd say yes. I looked him in the eyes and said, "Sorry, but I don't see that you guys need my help." My friend in high school was such a drama queen, but it worked out hilariously sometimes. He was cut off by a driver who had no brake lights, and it pissed him off so badly that he followed until a cop was behind, merged around the guy and then brake checked him so the cop would see that he had no brake lights. The holler he let out when the cop pulled the other guy over is still one of the funniest moments of my life. My brother-in-law did something to irritate my wife back when they were in high school. My wife turned off the TV, wrote "broken" on a piece of paper taped to the TV, shut off the power strip, and flipped the batteries around in the remote. Took my brother-in-law several days to figure it out. In elementary school, a kid decided to purposefully pee himself after the teacher told him he had to wait until after the test to use the restroom. I don't know if that counts though, because he ended up troubling himself a lot more than he did the teacher. When I was 7, I was mad at my younger sister about something, so when she went to bed I peed on her to get her in trouble for wetting the bed. Went to a restaurant for brunch. Upon receiving my bill, I noticed a $3 charge for table linen. As I was leaving, I folded up the tablecloth. The waiter said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I paid for it, I'm taking it home." And I did. In high school, a kid named Anthony was a big dick to me. Pushed me out the way when I was at a vending machine and stole my dollar. Said mean words to me. General bully stuff. The school had 6 class periods so we could get used to what college is like. I had him in my last class of the day. Right before the bell rang, him and his bully friends were ducking around and throwing shit at each other. A broken red pen went flying and hit me by accident right as the bell rang. As he started to go out the class doors, I pelted that ducking pen at the back of his head as hard as I could. He clutched his head and I blended into the masses. No one saw me do it. Ha duck you, Anthony. Went to a restaurant for lunch during a work shift. Out of 3 parking spots, somebody decided to park across every single one. There were no other parking spots at the time. So I decided to park within half a foot from my passenger side to his driver door. Ordered and got my food. And noticed an older, 60+ man leave and walk in the direction of our parked cars. When I left and walked towards my car, sure enough he was there. Tray of drinks in one hand and a bag of food in the other. Just absolutely struggling to get into his vehicle. He called out about why I parked like this, and my only reply was, "Why did you park across 3 spots? Park like and as you better expect to be treated like one." My sister smoked and hid it from my parents as a teen. She did something that pissed me off. I found and destroyed her cigarettes and then told her. She smacked me around. Then I told my mom. She got in a bunch of shit for beating me up, and my sister and I both knew why, but she obviously couldn't be honest about it with my mother. She got grounded for a while and my smug little ass got as many knowing glances at her as I was able. I did this unintentionally. But it's still revenge. Petty. I don't know, you tell me. In elementary school I would get pulled into a small room for one-on-one teaching sessions every week, and I would have 3-4 different teachers. This day I had the one I hated so much. My family didn't like her either, and I asked her if I can go to the bathroom. No. 10 minutes later I asked again. No. 4 minutes after asking that time I stood up to tell her I really bad to go. She said no. Sheet down. Guys, it was too late, I was already going on the carpet. I was crying and her jaw went to the floor. That itch was still cleaning it when I was walking back from the nurse's office. I was in 2nd grade. My grandma, she raised me, never wanted that teacher to teach me ever, and she got in trouble for not letting me go to the bathroom. My company has a password policy that locks your account after 3 wrong password attempts. A few times when someone irritates me, I'll lock my computer, switch user, and enter their username with a wrong password 3 times so they get locked out. Now they have to deal with help desk to unlock their account. I wear hearing aids. And a girl in my math class when I was in HS used to make fun of me. I had not said 2 words to her. I gave her no reason to do it. She was just being an evil hunt. I recording her mocking my hearing loss on my phone and played it for her parents. They took the new car they just bought her back to the dealership. When I was in law school I went to a bar with a bunch of law school students and decided I wanted a cig. I went outside and a whole bunch of girls are smoking. I don't like to bum cigarettes. But I had a free small fry coupon from McDonald's. I offered it to the girl if she would give me a cigarette. She said okay. I handed it to her. And then she wouldn't give me a cigarette. She said you shouldn't be so trusting. Flash forward a few months. And I'm the head GA for the ed for a division in our university. Which includes administration. I went up to replace a computer and saw the same girl. She was waiting in line for a job interview. I went up to the person who was conducting the interviews, I was there in person too, and told them the story. She didn't get the job. I had a roommate in college that would blare their TV in their room and talk loudly on speakerphone well into the night. I was young and too big a pussy to confront them about it. After a semester I had had enough. One time before going out I put my speakers up against our shared wall and blasted NR's Only Time on endless repeat. I also locked my door so they couldn't come in to turn it off. I got back around 3 AM. Someone, definitely not me, got a parking ticket on my street after the city decided my entire street should be no parking. A party was thrown at a house that definitely wasn't mine, and after everyone got well liquored up, ratchets with sockets matching the size of the bolts holding the no parking signs were distributed. Up and down the street small women stood on the shoulders of volunteers removing signs. A full street in Southern California was liberated from the tyranny of the man. 17 signs were collected allowing pictures to be taken showing no visible signs for court. Fine was dismissed by a clearly suspicious judge and the peasants rejoiced. I've told this one before, but it makes me happy to retell it. I had a boss 7-8 years ago whom I hated. She was the fattest and most entitled person I had ever met. One day, she decided that she didn't like the smell of microwave popcorn, so she waved her magic office wand and had it banned. Fast forward a month or so. I was browsing Amazon and found one of those USB sticks that emits a smell when plugged in, the smell of buttered popcorn. I bought it, plugged it into the back of her computer, and she had the sweet smell of Pop Secret in her office for 6 ducking months. She complained almost every day. It's the sweetest revenge I've ever tasted. Dated a guy and later found out he had another girlfriend. Messaged the other girlfriend on MySpace, showing my age here. and told her if she wanted to know the truth it would be better to hear it from him. So please call me and I'll call him on three-way calling. She didn't, stayed totally quiet on the call while he tried to set up some sexy time with me for later that week. Finally I said I don't think I can do that. Might have a problem with it. Wouldn't you? Question mark? She finally chimed in with an opened a duck you to him, and he hung up in a panic. Wished her luck. No idea how it turned out for them. But I blocked his sorries and still get a chuckle at the moment of pure fear we heard in the silence before he hung up. On the first snowfall one year, a co-worker balled up a snowball and threw it right in my face in front of the whole office. Everyone laughed and he refused to apologize. So on the next work day it snowed. I gathered a backpack of snowballs and disguised myself as a snowman in front of our work building, waiting for him to arrive. When he didn't try to open the front door I had locked, I burst from my snowman disguise and pelted him repeatedly with snowballs. My fingers and pen 15 were frozen from waiting as a snowman, but it was definitely worth it. Had a shitty landlord once. Refused to fix windows that were broken before I moved in. Basically just a shithole owned by a slumlord. Took him to small claims court for a number of reasons. Ended up getting my next 6 months paid for at my next apartment. There was a small trapdoor in the closet floor to access shut-off valves for the plumbing. So before I moved out I got scrap meat from a local butcher, stuff they can't sell, and placed it in the trapdoor. A few months later the place gets condemned due to vermin infestation. Gets torn down. This was also before cell phones. So a couple times I got my female friend to call his house when I knew he wasn't home. His wife would answer. My friend would ask for him and act nervous and hang up. I had a childhood bully of mine serve me food at McDonald's. It wasn't like actual revenge, but it was somewhat satisfying seeing a kid who was so cruel to me growing up having to serve me. I don't think he recognized me because I was much skinnier and had a beard now, but I definitely recognized him. One of my roommates kept stealing my Pop-Tarts, so I ordered a little UV fingerprint powder off Amazon and dusted it over the packaging. Next time a Pop-Tart got stolen I checked all of my roommates' doorknobs for the powder with a black light and found out who was stealing my breakfast. Alex, you still owe me a box of cinnamon frosted Pop-Tarts, you big dig.